Hello and welcome to the Punter, that show that guides you through the weekend sports betting action, finding the value for you. And if you've been watching regularly, you'll have made some money. Great advice from our experts. Funny week, this one, particularly for me personally. Had a nasty fall midweek in my flat, did my leg. I was about 50-50 to do the show actually, and funnily enough, the show called me that evening. I said I was fine for no apparent reason. That's a bit of Kauto star humour. It's a dying art. With me this week, I've got Alan Alger from Blue Square. Good to see you, Al.
Hi, Nick.
Welcome back. We've missed you the last.
I've had a couple of weeks off. Yeah, been at Lingfield races, and I hear it's been good without me.
Struggled to keep up the level.
I didn't use the word better.
And what a weird week it's been with this Kauto star story.
Yeah, it's very strange, really, because I think as we're going to move on to it was kept under wraps for a few days by the Nichols stable, and quite astonishing that no markets moved in the meantime, and obviously we've had the reaction to it today with the prices, and obviously Kauto Star has drifted. But I think the news this morning was slightly more positive than the first press release.
OK, so it might end up running after all. Neil Channing, our resident punter, is here as ever, fresh from Oscar glory.
I am fresh, yeah. I would say, like, on this show generally, when we first started doing it, I was having the most terrible run ever, and I felt such a fraud turning up every week and giving out my advice and then going home and losing even more money. Since then, and I think it's down to the punter, I've turned it around. I'm getting the absolute lot, Nick.
I am happy for you, and you always share so generously with everyone. Let's check out the specifics of you getting the lot. Last week was a good week with the Oscars coming in.
Well, you know, there wasn't room on the caption for all the money I won last week, but these are some of the high spots.
So, best documentary feature, Undefeated, a film I know you very much admire, have watched, backed it.
I actually found out what it's about. It's about it's about an American football team who are like underachievers that go and do, I don't know, something like that. It sounded very kind of American-y.
What 5-1. It was almost 2-1 on the night. 5-2 on the night, right?
What I do know is that Ladbrokes cut it from 5-1 into 9-4.
Based on your recommendation?
Based on my money, I think.
Yeah, based on your money. And Chelsea to be beating, you were laying Chelsea to be beating Bolton at half time.
Yeah, that was all right. I did actually lay, I have to confess, I laid Chelsea to win the game, and they did win 3-0. So I did a bit of money back, but I did lay plenty. I ended up laying 8-11, in fact, Chelsea to be winning at half time. And Bolton, plucky Bolton, held on for a while.
And then regular viewers of the show would have been all over the Best Director nomination. This was probably 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, we put it up about, we were talking about this about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I mean, it was just, at the time, it just seemed weird. The movie, The Artist, was 2-7, and Michelle was 4-7. He went off. The movie went off 20-1 on, and he went off 16-1 on.
That's the definition of value, isn't it?
Oh, well, you know, you can eat value occasionally.
You can, yeah, you can take it to the bank, literally. And also with us is Mike Wilson. Mike, great to have you on the show. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
That's the last time we used your surname, because you're Bodugi Mike today.
Absolutely, yeah. If you join Bodugi and if you're part of Bodugi, one thing is that your identity is quickly erased. Surnames are a thing of the past, and you just become Bodugi Christian name. So yes, I am Bodugi Mike now.
Bodugi.com, our betting partners this week, and we'll be taking people through the game, so that'll be fun later on. But also, you're a horse racing man. What do you make of this Kauto Star business?
Well, we were talking a little bit before we came on air, and my personal view is, Alan mentioned it was extraordinary that there was no drift in the markets on the betting exchanges, which you normally see sort of the murmurs or the slight move. Fair enough, it happened a week ago, and they've been sort of doing some physio. He has been cantering and stuff like that. I was saying to these guys, I'm not sure how much it was news before yesterday when it was broken, because you don't exactly know how much goes on with these horses, how well they feel from day to day, what they're normally like, what they go through. So the fact that something happened, fair enough, they had a course of action, it didn't improve like they thought it would do. And then yesterday was the time when they thought, look, now let's have a
So Neil, Mike's saying it's all fair enough. I'm not sure you're quite in the fair enough camp, are you?
I'm baffled, Nick. I'm absolutely baffled. I'm a fan of Paul Nicholls. I like him. I think I'm a big Twitter man. I like to read stuff like that. I look on Betfair where he writes, you know, really a fairly informative and pretty open column where he gives a lot of information away. He used to write a column in the Racing Post and give, you know, he's the most media-friendly guy you would think ever. And he's gone from Mr. Media to Mr. Mum's the Word overnight. Like, what possible motive could he have for keeping this story under wraps?
What possible motive could he have?
Well, I have no idea. That's what I'd really like to know. People say to me, well, you know, what use would there be telling people, because he wouldn't really know how seriously the injury was or anything. He's knocking out press releases day in, day out, saying, oh yeah, various horses ate their carrots yesterday and everything's fine with them. And people are lapping up that kind of information. I should think the favourite for the Gold Cup, a horse that is on the 9 o'clock news from time to time, having a reasonably serious fall in a gallop at home 3 weeks before the Cheltenham Gold Cup, that might be a little bit more worthy of a press release than some of the other stuff we tend to get.
You're talking about the most famous horse in the country, aren't you?
I mean, I know you're going to bring on the market in a minute.
Yeah, let's have a look at the market as it is right now.
Yeah, the horse went basically from 5 to 2 out to 10 to 1 within 2 hours of the news coming out. And that wasn't a thing that was worth letting us know for a whole week. I can't buy this idea that it suddenly got a lot worse yesterday evening, and therefore they needed to say something.
I mean, my take on that overall is that I think you'll often speak to connections in racing, and obviously, you know, I do my job in racing, well, at least half of my job in racing, and I would never, and this isn't a slight on them, by the way, I would never trust jockeys, trainers, or connections of horses to give me that information. I never would. I always look and see with my own eyes, and you always have to have an element that horses are being trained for future races or for different purposes. And that information is their privilege. They're paying to be involved with the sport.
I don't disagree with you, Alan. I don't disagree, and I know exactly what you're saying. And often, you know, if they've got gambling owners who are looking to maybe land a punt along the way, they don't want to. Yeah, of course, they're paying £400 a week to keep this horse in training. They don't necessarily owe it to the public to tell them. But once they start taking large amounts of money from,
that's surely that's Betfair's issue, though, isn't it? That's Betfair's issue as to whether
they seem to care. They don't seem to care.
What about
a big
the issues you had
story
in the past with Kicking King and Binocular going out to 1,000? Those guys laying $999.
Well,
you could argue buyer beware with the information.
Of course, but with Nicky Henderson with Binocular, you know, the owner is an enormous gambler, one of the biggest gamblers in the world. That doesn't surprise me that much, that they keep that information to themselves. I'm pretty sure this wasn't some kind of, you know, massive secret gambling coup, and they've all lumped on long run.
Just because I'm interested from the punter's point of view at home, is the policy therefore that they should just ignore, you know, trainers' media appearances and what trainers say in public?
My point is, it's up to Betfair as to whether they're getting the right information. And you said, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, there are a lot of press releases that come out from trainers, and we've done it from time to time in our series, and it's has eaten up its carrots, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean a thing to you if you're betting, okay? But then you need to adopt that policy with all the information that you receive from these people. I mean, the Racing Post, I've sat there opposite their journalists who do a very good job, and I've sat there opposite them at big festivals like Goodwood, Cheltenham, Aintree, and they'll be sitting there, and in between races they'll be phoning trainers, asking them about the next day's runners, and they'll put a big bit at the front of the paper, and it'll have 2 or 3 sentences on each horse that's come direct from the trainers. You can also access that on their website, and I do not take any notice of anything that's ever in those at all.
3/4 of it is complete rubbish.
Absolute rubbish. Now, it's up to them whether it's rubbish or not, and it's up to you whether you consume it in that way. And I would just say I've learned over time, without any slight on them whatsoever, that I wouldn't take any notice of what's said in those particular places.
Okay.
If you were Paul Nicholls, what would you have done?
I would have just said, when I was called, this is what happened on the evening of that day.
Of the fall?
Paul Nicholls was called by telephone by a panel that were at a Cheltenham evening preview, and he was asked, how is Kauto start? And he said, everything fine, it's all going well, we're heading to the Gold Cup. I might have said, well, actually, it had a small fall today. We're not really sure how serious it will be.
But is that the right time,
We'll keep you informed.
That's what I was going to say. When do you release the information?
I don't understand.
If he woke up in the morning and he was absolutely grand and called that fine.
There'd have been a mass exodus of that tipping forum out to their phones and to mobiles laying it off.
It could have caused massive unnecessary concern.
What are you saying, unnecessary concern? What's wrong with it? Like, why? In other sports,
it's the truth, isn't it?
It's the truth. I mean, why can't we have that information? I don't understand why that should be secret. Someone said, I read something earlier, someone said it was inappropriate to give that information until we knew exactly what was happening. No. Why is that inappropriate? Just tell us what's
They are more
happening.
informed now, though, than they were a week ago.
Of course, but tell us what's happening, and we'll be the judges of whether it's important or not.
And the market's the judge as well. I mean, most companies will adopt a policy whereby if something out of the ordinary has happened, I cast my mind back, and you were in the industry at the time, Neil. David Coulthard had a very bad plane crash.
Oh, I remember that
about
one,
2 races into the Formula One season, and all of a sudden, on a Wednesday when we were taking bets on that day's greyhounds and that evening's football, we suddenly started getting requests for David Coulthard Formula One points. And at the time, it was the only place you could actually oppose because there wasn't.
So random if you don't know
exchange.
that.
That search for value never ends.
The day
people
that
getting wind of a plane crash before we've got wind of it. I mean,
very quick one. Very quick. The day that Princess Diana died, we got 50 phone calls from people wanting to sell our weekend sport performance index because there was a little thing it got a certain number of points if each event was cancelled, and they worked out that if all the events were cancelled, that sellers were going to win, and they rung up to sell it.
You got to love the bookmaking. It's all heart. It's all heart. It is the search. It is the search for information. We'll help you with some more standard information after the break. The weekend's football is coming up. Welcome back to the Punter. We're doing this week's sport ending action. We're going to start as ever with the football. Some really big games, a good Premier League weekend for you, and starts off early on Saturday with the Liverpool-Arsenal game at Anfield. I've got, for once, strong opinions on the Premier League fixtures. I usually don't have. I think Liverpool are going to get turned over. Alan, the Arsenal fan, and the kind of the don't pass better on Arsenal. You're opposing them on a regular basis. Tell us about. You were at the Emirates for the North London game. You must have been thrilled.
I was absolutely thrilled, apart from something that happened to me because of the poor phone service there. Now, I thought Theo Walcott had probably his worst 45 minutes that he's ever had
and that is
in
saying,
an Arsenal
that is saying
shirt.
something.
And that is saying something. And at half-time, tweeted my disgust.
I read that.
Now, 60-odd thousand people, that tweet took a long time to go through. I'll tell you how long. It came through 30 seconds before his first goal. And then, obviously, everyone's reading it as he scored. And then, just to, back that up, he scored again as they were digesting what I'd actually
I was on a train,
so.
and I saw that tweet come up, and then I saw, oh, he scored.
Yeah.
He still didn't play well. He just put some goals.
He still didn't play well. I mean, the first one's come off his shin.
So this game, do we now change our opinion of Arsenal? We've got the prices, which are, I would think pretty standard, but what do you think?
My overall criticism and tipping against Arsenal has always been with a level head from a punting point
You're
of
looking
view,
at value and you
as
think
to say
they're
whether it's
overrated.
value or not.
Yeah.
And this is the team I know most, so I should know whether or not they're value.
Absolutely.
At this particular point, I think there's a doubt over Robin van Persie. If he is out injured, I think that this is going to be a very low-scoring game. Because Arsenal can only really score through him or what he actually creates. He was involved in most of the goals at the weekend. And I am very, very tempted to take some early value on no goal scorer here. No goal scorer. I know that Neil will probably like that.
I quite like that.
Can I temper that by saying...
What price would interest you, just for people at home, for a no goal scorer?
Any
bet?
no goal scorer price of around 10 to 1 would be a good bet on this game, I feel. Can I temper that by saying that when the top 6 in the betting have met, this year in the Premier League, apart from Tottenham's visit to Anfield, which finished 0-0,
they're averaging 23 goals a game.
Well, you're not far off. You're not far off. It's something like over.
I just say thank
you
for including Liverpool in the top 6. We're not actually there.
I said in the betting.
Yeah,
in the betting.
The man's talking about Norwich.
Yeah, exactly. We've also
averaging over 4.5 goals per game. Those big games.
Amazing, isn't it?
So,
it's been freakish this season.
Poor defences, and I think that's what Arsenal took advantage of last week. And I certainly wouldn't say that we've turned the corner yet. All I've been crying out for from Arsenal is consistent, good form in games that matter. Okay. Now, you could say last week they've conceded 2 poor goals, but that's a victory to build off the back of. So it will take me a long, long time to come round to the fact that this is a good Arsenal team. I don't think it is.
And Neil, I know this isn't your sort of game usually, but do you see any value?
Well, actually, yeah, it's funny because before I came here today, I kind of skipped over this game thinking, well, that's an easy game to price up. And to be honest, I didn't really think about it that much at all. And now I'm looking at it now and thinking, I watched this team, Liverpool, and they had to get to a rather scrappy penalty shootout to beat Cardiff City last
but
week.
that's because it's good for branding. It sells more shirts
see.
if you're an exciting team. That's why we always go behind in cup finals.
And they're even money to score a team that won 5-2 against the second coming of Tottenham Hotspur, who are supposed to be the best team in the world according to their
Daniel
fans.
Agger is out.
Yeah.
Steven Gerrard is out.
This Van Persie factor's huge.
This Van Persie's quite good. He does score a few goals, doesn't he?
Let's get another perspective on it. I've got Simon Clare from Corals on the line, I think. Simon, are you there? And have you been listening?
I have indeed.
Great to have you on the show, Simon. This game will presumably see a lot of money. What's your view on it?
Well, listen, it's a cracking contest. I mean, it's a lunchtime kick-off. It kicks off the weekend. It was a fixture, of course, probably before Alan's memories. He's a lot younger than me. When this used to be the biggest game in town in the late 80s, early 90s. But sadly, not quite as significant in the current scheme of things. But it's a big game for fourth place. And I think it'll see plenty of betting action. I think a lot of Arsenal fans, flushed with that success last weekend, will back them to beat Liverpool at Anfield, and clearly, even with those injury doubts, Liverpool at home after winning their first trophy this season and for a while, will be popular as well. So I think we'll see both sides, and obviously we would love a 0-0 draw.
Well, Alan thinks it's possible. I think Liverpool will still be hungover.
Not once Alan's lumped on it, you won't.
Yeah, that's true.
One thing I would say, though, generally speaking, as you know from this show, I don't take a great deal of notice about team news, and I think one player is often completely overrated. This is an exception, I think. What do you think, Alan? If you knew for a fact that Van Persie was playing, what would that do to the 11-4?
Well, I think that the Liverpool price drifted off the back of the Liverpool injury news because that came out first. Arsene Wenger did a press conference this morning stating that 3 players could be out. One of those, Vermaelen, who's been pivotal at the back, and also Van Persie, who's just pivotal full stop for Arsenal. So I would say that the Arsenal price could be clipped back in, and the Liverpool price could definitely
to what, to 2-1, or
no, I think around 9-4 would be the Arsenal price. I mean, we've seen it as short as that. 11-4 into 9-4, but that's based on, I think the team news is worse for Arsenal in an attacking sense.
Okay, well, we'll see who actually lines up at Anfield on Saturday lunchtime. The next big game of the weekend is Tottenham against Man United, the biannual Tottenham rollover, as I like to call it. They never ever do anything against Man United. Why aren't they like 8-1 or something?
I don't know. I still have, shock memories of Les Ferdinand almost apologising on the day that Tottenham needed to win at Old Trafford and Arsenal needed to beat Aston Villa at home. I think it was the 1999 season, and I think he scored to put Tottenham 1-0 up, and none of his teammates went to celebrate with him. Shocking. I think it was the only Tottenham goal that's ever been cheered at Highbury when it came through on the radio. I think you're right. I think Manchester United seem to have the knack over the last 10 years of going to a team that have got their best players out. I mean, everything just lines up for them, and I think Bale and Parker could be missing for Tottenham.
Yeah, Parker definitely because he's suspended.
Parker definitely.
And Bale definitely, I think he's out for 4 weeks, I think.
Well, there you go. So that 6-4 can only go one way.
I would have thought so, yeah. Was that this Rooney, is this a fake throat infection?
Rooney's playing, he's fine.
Last week that was just a fake throat infection, so he didn't have to schlep to Wembley in the midweek.
I think so. I think he's one of those players like Giggs that when Alex Ferguson tells him that they're not going to drop you because you miss a friendly, I think it's true. England will not ever drop Wayne Rooney.
Well, my Wayne Rooney bet last week, he didn't play, and Arsenal scored 5 goals, and I only dropped 1 behind Van Persie.
Yeah,
I'm feeling like I had a result there.
Still your big factor that Van Persie, they're so reliant on Van Persie, they're not going to drop him for games.
Let's have a nice 3-0 Rooney. That'd be lovely.
Your best thing is for Arsenal to drop out of contention and start resting Van Persie towards the end of the season.
Could happen. Simon, this game, another big game. How do you get action on Spurs in this match? That's what I want to know. They don't have their best players. They never do anything against Man United. Are they a big enough price at the moment?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think they got thumped on Sunday after throwing away a 2-0 lead. They go in against a side who continue to be pretty clinical and pretty ruthless in the league. We saw Scholes and Giggs, the oldest players in the league, scoring both their goals when they beat Norwich last weekend. And even in that game, the manager said that Norwich were the better side. This is just they never seem to lose that ability, Manchester United, of winning games they don't deserve to win. And they go to a Tottenham side riding high, but maybe just having a little bit of a wobble. And so, you've got to say, you know, that they look vulnerable, don't they? They're 9-5. It's 6-4. Manchester United away from home. The draw 9-4. I think you've got to be looking at a Manchester United away victory. I'm curious to hear. Gareth Bale picked up an injury and is out. That must have been from taking that terrible fall after flying through the air at the Emirates.
Good one.
It's the occupational hazard of the professional diver, isn't it? You can do a groin or something when you're doing it. For sure.
I see. Okay. No, I did worry about him though, because it was a terrible fall.
Simon, if you had to guess, given that people don't generally bet the draw, would you say in this game you'd probably take 50% of your bets on the 1-2x would be on Man United?
I'd say, yeah, probably, maybe even a little even more. I mean, all the sort of, you know, there'll be dyed in the wool punters coming every Saturday on the coupons and look for the sort of big sides. Manchester United, they still are one of the biggest. I don't know. I think there'll be plenty playing Tottenham at home who may not even be quite so concerned about their injury worries and just see them as, you know, having a good chance, you know, at the lane. The draw, I mean, the draw is just incredibly underbacked in all football matches, really, and certainly in this, I think there'll be plenty of people, you know, taking the extremes, and the draw will be another good result for us.
Okay, thank you, Simon. The next televised game is perhaps a little bit more of a tepid affair, but you can still bet on it. Fulham Wolves is the game on Sunday at 2. Fulham, obviously favourites, at home to a poor Wolves team. What do you think about this one, Al?
Yeah, Fulham's away record is poor, but they usually deliver the goods at home, even when a big price. They've already beaten Arsenal and Liverpool at home this season. So to have them at 4-7. See, the thing is, as a one-off single, I just couldn't recommend this at all. I don't know how anyone could ever part with cash on Fulham to beat any team at home at such a short price. And that's what really tempers the confidence. And then you're going to maybe go into the realms of Neil's good.
Two bad teams.
Yeah, two bad teams. I mean, are Fulham really bad? I think they'll comfortably achieve mid-table, so I wouldn't say they fit the bill 100% as a bad team. But if you gave me a free bet on the game, I would only be backing Wolves on this.
I'll give you a bet that you have to pay for, Neil. What would you back?
I'm going to have a bet, actually. I'm going to back Wolves. I don't think it's two bad teams, and I totally take the point that Fulham have a great home record. They have got beaten 3 times at home in the Premier this year, and Wolves have won twice away. I thought they did all right last week. They came back from 2-0 down against Newcastle. Apparently they dominated the second half. Well, obviously they did come back from 2-0 down, so they probably dominated the second half. But a couple of people told me they played really well. You know, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about, you know, Russ was here and he's obviously involved in Wolves, Sporting Bet sponsor Wolves, and he was saying maybe they've given up for the year. You know, having a caretaker manager is kind of an acceptance that they're just going to go down, and you know,
didn't look
maybe
like it last week, did it?
They didn't look like they'd given up. They went 2-0 down away from home against Newcastle. That if you were going to give up, that looked like a great chance to start giving up.
So a little bit of value, maybe.
I don't know. 11-2. I thought they're 11-2 in places. I thought that was a fair bet. Really.
Right. Simon, give us a sense of how big the action would be on this game. It's a televised game, but it's from 2 kind of perhaps less fashionable teams. So for people at home, would you see a lot of action on this or not?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the Sunday live matches now, the staple diet of punters. You know, you tend to get the quantity on the Saturday as well as some live action, but Sunday there's always a few, you know, a smaller fixture list. But you know, there's plenty of people who are playing doubles. They'll be watching both games. They'll be betting, you know, the singles, the correct scores, etc. And you know, and the other thing is Fulham. You know, we talked about the other 2 matches where they're closer contests. This is you know, Fulham are odds on 8-13, and so a lot of punters on the Saturday and on the Sunday will be looking for those odds-on shots to put in their coupon. So it's, you know, they'll be heavily backed Fulham, and not many people will be backing Wolves away from home. And it's quite interesting hearing they talk about the home record, because it is something that, you know, certainly in my mind I always think of Fulham a little bit flaky at home, but actually in terms of games won at home, they've got the 7th highest total with 6 home wins, and they're 11th in the title race. So it suggests they're sort of outperforming their position in terms of home form, and their recent form has been pretty solid. So. You know, I think they look to me a pretty good bet against a Wolves side fighting for their lives with a new manager, but you know, still, you know, which leaked goals. So for me, Fulham, good thing.
Okay, Simon, take us into the next game, which is a Tyne and Wear derby. Newcastle hosting Sunderland, the most important fixture of the season for both these teams, and both of them struggled recently. What do you think about this one? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle have, you know, struggled a little bit. They drew against Wolves. That was frustrating for them, because you know, they really should have won that game. They got battered by Spurs, but I mean, they're still riding, you know, high in the table. You know, they're at home, and Sunderland themselves had a real blip. You know, they suddenly just started to hit, you know, a bit of a wall. They drew against Middlesbrough 3 games ago, got beat by Arsenal, then had that great cup victory, but then got absolutely battered by West Brom, at home, away from home last weekend. So it's a huge encounter. Newcastle favourites 11-10, 5-2. Sunderland away from home, 23-10 the draw. Lots of action, lots of spice, but probably a tricky one to call.
Yeah, it will definitely be an interesting one. Turns out that not wearing a jacket and jumping up and down enthusiastically only gets you 3 or 4 games of upswing. Is that the case with Martin O'Neill?
Could well be. We've got an internal tipping competition on our football desk, and they allow the PR manager to get involved at Blue Square. And Sunderland were my nap last week. I couldn't find anything in our division. I usually tip a non-league team that no one's heard of. And I napped Sunderland. I've been getting stick all week. 4-0 against West Bromwich Albion. It was one of those ones. It's almost like the bounce factor you sort of say with horses. If they've been running well for a long, long time, then a blip will come. And it came in such a spectacular way that you couldn't really put them up, because I suppose the market has almost forgot that defeat, hasn't it? And it's just funny, said, but they're back in good form.
It's funny you talk about the bounce factor, because there's another concept that they never really talk about in English sport, but in American sports betting they talk about it all the time. Last week's game was what they'd call a sandwich game.
Trap game.
They're looking ahead to their next game. Maybe they weren't really thinking too much about West Brom because the players had mentally started thinking about the Newcastle game, which everyone is talking. This is
a huge game
such
for them,
a big game up there. I can't really have a bet. I'd be quite tempted by the draw at half time at 11:08.
What price do you think, though? What price do you think Sunderland would have been here if Newcastle had been pegged back by Wolves and they'd managed to beat West Brom, as I predicted?
Yeah.
Because I think these prices would be so much closer together. That could, if you're saying that sandwich theory is true, that could mean that 5-2 is a very, very good bet.
Okay, great stuff. That will be a really fun one to watch. Actually, it's a fantastic weekend of football, isn't it? I'm sure you'll be enjoying it and having a bet. Lots more games to bet on, though, and you can also do it on Bodugi.com. We'll take you through that for the Saturday kickoffs after this break. Welcome back to the Punter. We're continuing our look at this weekend's football, but we're also going to introduce you to the game that everybody's playing. This is where you can play for a small amount and win a jackpot, and also back your judgment on the football. Bodugi.com are our betting partners. Let's check it out. Bodugi.com is the site, and here from Bodugi is Bodugi Mike. It's like saying Bodugi.
Yeah, it sort of rolls off the tongue after a period of time, doesn't it? Sort of people saying, where's the name come from? Nowhere, it just sticks.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking of alternatives you could have called it, but don't worry. Bodugi's good.
There's a massive list.
There's a lot, yeah. You must have a big list if you just made it up.
Yeah, the coach and horses is inscribed on the wallpaper.
Now, people may not have played it before, so just very quickly, explain just the idea. You're betting your judgment, you're backing your judgment on football matches, basically.
Absolutely. We're still coining the phrase that we are the world's first social betting website. Rather than have a bet with a bookmaker or just a fixed odds bet, we're saying come and play against each other. And you're exactly right, you're betting your judgment. You can log on to Bodugi.com, and you can either choose to play off a list of matches or horse racing fixtures that are readily available, or you can play against your mates. Again, the big game that we're going to be looking at in a moment is where you can play for £2. There's a guaranteed 500 quid in the pot. First prize, I think, is 200 quid. And you make 5 selections on each football match across 5 matches on a Saturday afternoon, all the 3 o'clock kickoffs.
Yeah.
And you pick a result, a correct score, and 3 anytime goal scorers in each match. And at 3 o'clock, when the matches start, you get a leaderboard generated once you've made your selection on an as-it-stands scenario. So everybody with 0-0, draw, no goal scorer, has the maximum amount of points possible, and they're at the top of the league.
Right.
And as the goals go in, 1-0, the people with 0-0 lose their points, 1-0 builds up, and all the people with the
I might be tempted to pick 5-0 just to feel good.
Some people do that. Some people
Stop the game! Stop the game!
Thousands of points at the
Okay,
start.
so now we've got a little game where our viewers can play against Flash. So let's bring him in. Flash, how are you doing this week?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, a lot better than last week. That's why I'm on the phone, because I can't bear to show me face, to be honest, mate.
Well, I
None of it
personally
Saturday.
I hope Flash does a lot better than last week.
Because it's costing you money. Because if people beat Flash, they get a free game from you, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, it's £2 to enter the big game on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Flash is also playing as well. Flash finished 98th last week, unfortunately, and we said anyone who beats Flash gets their £2 refunded, so they have a free roll next week.
Okay.
You've ruined them, Flash.
Listen, there were some right wonky old results, I'll tell you.
Well, let's see if we can do a bit better this week then, shall we, Flash? You've made your selections, which people are going to have to try and better. Starting with Blackburn, Aston Villa.
Okay, well, I've gone for Blackburn to win. Obviously, my reason is Villa without David Dunn, without Darren Bent. They're really struggling all round, so I just think that momentum and attacking prowess will pay through. And I've gone Blackburn to win 3-0 as well. So
3-0. And who have you picked as your potential goal scorers and points winners?
Well, basically, I've just gone for the boys that are going to get in the box as much as possible, which I think is Yakubu, Formica, and I've gone for Roshina.
You've gone for Formica.
Yeah, Formica.
They both sound like appetisers.
Sorry?
Oh, you've gone for Roshina, have you? Okay.
I think I have, yeah. I think it was
that's a
Roshina, Formica, and Yakubu.
Okay, fantastic. So that's Blackburn to beat Aston Villa convincingly. Aston Villa getting dragged into the relegation fight a little bit. The next game is Stoke versus Norwich. Stoke at home. I know that Neil Channing likes Norwich in this game, and I know that you don't, Flash.
No!
No, of course not. I'm not going to like Norwich. I think Norwich have burst their bubble now, and it's got to that stage of the season.
Don't
where
say that, Flash.
They are really, really tired. They've only got a small squad, and I think that they've punched up their weight for long enough. Channers, you've had your money out of them.
People are always saying that about me, Flash. You look tired and you've punched above your weight long enough.
So what's the score going to be, Flash?
I've gone for 2-1 to Stoke.
2-1 to Stoke.
Stoke win. I've gone for Stoke to win 2-1.
Yeah.
And I've gone for, I think I've gone for Sermon to score for maybe Norwich. And my two Stokes were Shawcross and Collins.
Okay. Shawcross and Collins.
Centre halves, I mean, going forward, you know, they get the ball in there, they get their centre halves into the box as much as possible. So I think they're the type of scorers you want. I mean, people can go for the obvious favourites like your Jeromes and Kenwyn Jones and Peter Crouch, but I only need one to get one of my centre halves to score, and that's like 6 or 7 Peter Crouches, you know?
Yeah, so you're playing the game looking for that big points boost. Let's check out the next one. Third match on Saturday is QPR Everton.
Yeah, QPR Everton, I've gone for a draw. I've gone for 1-1.
Yeah.
And I've also gone, just to try and be, not so much clever, but I still think it'd be a draw, but I took no goal scorer. So I can obviously get points for no goal scorer. I get points for it still being a draw. And then I think I've gone for, you're going to have to help me out with that one.
Yeah, you've got Smith and Mackie, I think.
Mackie and Smith, yeah. So again, I fancy that one of them two. One of them would probably be subs who'll come on and maybe get an equaliser, but I just don't think there's loads of goals in the game, to be honest.
Okay, and you've gone for 1-1.
Al,
you wanted to speak to Flash about QPR, didn't you?
I was just, Flash, you were saying about QPR, you know, that Mark Hughes would have his team up for beating both his former clubs, but I just wondered how much he could impart that onto a team that hadn't actually, he'd not been their boss for, you know, a good 3 weeks prior to that. Managers have to be good at imparting that over, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, if I had to pick one of the two and not go with the draw, then I'd want to be with Everton because they've got no discipline at the minute. They've like lost 3 players in the last 4 games. They talk a great game, and I don't think they've gelled. I don't think they know what the best side is. So for me, I certainly would be opposing Queen's Park Rangers all the way.
Do you think it's Mark Hughes though? I'm not so sure he's as good as boss as people say he is.
I just think that he doesn't know how to put the jigsaw pieces together at this moment in time, and some of the others have still got the old Warnock mentality.
Okay.
And I almost think they've gone on to... They went away like 10 days, 2 weeks ago.
We'll see if he can sort out the jigsaw. Meanwhile, Man City versus... I wouldn't fancy Mark Hughes to put a jigsaw together, if I'm honest. Is that rude? Man City versus Bolton is the next one, Flash.
Yeah, I've gone for, obviously, Man City to win. I don't think you could have Bolton with anybody's money, to be honest. If they want to go and spring a surprise, that's great, because I've got Man United all the way for the Premiership. And then I've gone with a bit of a slippery one of Man City actually giving someone a real tonking. And I've gone for any other score, which is right at the bottom of the page.
Okay, so that's bigger than 4-1, basically, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if I said to you that Man City won 5-0 against Bolton at home, you wouldn't be surprised, would you?
No, not at all. That's a good one, I think. And the goal scorers for Man City, presumably?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to go away from like the Agueros and that. I think I've gone for like an Adam Johnson, Yaya Toure.
You've gone for David Silva and Yaya Toure, I think.
Who did I go for? Silva,
David Silva and
Toure,
Yaya Toure.
Lovely.
Yeah, very plausible. And then finally, Flash, West Brom Chelsea is the 5th game on Saturday.
Yeah, again, I looked at this game quite a bit and thought, where am I going to get my points? And I just can't go full on Chelsea. So I've gone for a draw again. I've gone for 2-2 because West Bromwich Albion do score goals at home, and as we know, Chelsea struggled to keep clean sheets, although they beat Bolton 3-0 last week. And
goal scorers, you've gone for Malumbu, Cahill and Ivanovic. Defenders again.
Again, because you get like 100 points for one of them scoring, which is the same as getting like maybe a 2 or 3-0 correct score and a goal scorer. So,
and
again,
Mike,
I'm just trying to pick spots.
That's kind of playing the game, isn't it? Because you are trying to get these big point hauls at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's hedged around in the QPR game as well. So you can sort of play around a little bit. You can nail your colours to the mast with the result, get a little bit fruity with the correct score, and then go exotic with your goal scorers as well. We're finding a lot of people now sort of have a banker, a middle-of-the-road selection, and then a defender for an outsider as well, because you get multiple goal scorer bonuses as well. The first goal is worth the odds that you see on the screen. The second goal is worth 3 times those points, and the third and any subsequent goals are worth 10 times the points that you see on the screen as well.
That's the key to getting those really big points hauls when you're playing. Okay, so Flash, while we've got you, your Flash is 5. As you said last week, some tricky results. Not your best week.
Oh, yeah. No, it was horrendous.
Nick, don't humiliate the man. He's turned in winner after winner this season.
He has. I was coming on to that.
Are you boys loading the gun? I've gone for. I think now's the time to steer clear of Division 1 and Division 2. So I've moved out of there, and now I think it's time to go into the Championship and the Premiership.
I thought you were going to say you're going to the Blue Square Premier then.
Yeah, I was hoping.
Into the Premier League.
No. Al's got that well squared off.
Yeah. So you got Stoke to beat Norwich.
Yeah, definitely got Stoke to beat Norwich. I just think Norwich are.
You've got it the wrong way round.
Brilliantly this year. Have I gone against you, have I, Channers?
Yeah.
Blackburn to beat Aston Villa, Man United to beat Tottenham, I'm with you on that. Crystal Palace to beat Peterborough and Ipswich to beat Bristol City.
Yeah, Nick, and it's 5 4-timers because the worst 4-timer will clear you 10-1 from your initial stake. So I think it's 39-1 for the 5, and your worst 4-timer is 16-1.
Okay.
You're still going to clear 10-1.
Flash, I have every confidence that you're going to bounce back. We will check in next week and find out. Have a good week, mate.
Cheers, boys. Good
Cheers,
luck.
Flash.
Good luck.
Flash.
Yeah.
That was Flash. Of course, he's here every week with his picks, and you can find out how he did next week and perhaps follow them. We're all on Man United. Seriously, come on. We're going to look at some more sport, a little bit more Cheltenham, and some more picks and more value for you after the break. Welcome back to the Punter, and we are going to talk Cheltenham. The Cheltenham Festival is coming up quickly, and of course people are starting to look at the races more seriously, although of course a lot of action will be actually on the day. But we're going to set the scene for you a little bit. Al, what are you seeing most money for at the moment in the anti-post market?
Well, the most money overall has been for the returning champions to win, all 4 returning champions.
And we started talking about this on the Punter 2 or 3 weeks ago.
We did, and Russ of Sporting Bet flagged it up and said that it's such a huge moment for the industry if those 4 win, because I think he wasn't exaggerating when he said that some of the smaller companies could be on the verge of going out of business, because you're talking about a huge liability that's been rolling up. We've managed ours okay. You know, our traders have been on top of it. We were as big as 20 to 1 a few weeks ago.
It was 20 to 1 on this show when we were talking about it. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, but not long ago.
Yeah. And
so why has it come down so far? Just the weight of money, or?
Well, it went to 16 to 1 off the back of the money, and it was a hell of a lot of money. We weren't lying about the figures. You know, it was well into 6 figures, the liability.
And the individual horses have kind of shortened up a bit as well.
Exactly.
Like, not just because of money, but because of some of the second favourites and third favourites.
And also, as you get closer to Cheltenham as well, punters almost become blind to anything
them winning,
apart from the top of the market.
And the long run factor was probably the one thing that we wanted to get out of it, but. We were 16 to 1 into 12 off the back of the Kauto Star News.
Coral's there at 11 to 1. Simon Clare is still on the line. Simon, you actually you're not offering the price as a promotional one price, are you? We've basically accumulated your 4 odds there.
No, I mean, we a few weeks ago we were quoting, I think it was 25 to 1, and then sort of 20 to 1 or whatever it was. But I think, as Alan has probably just described, I mean, punters are back placing these bets anyway. And of course, any punter, the beauty of fixed odds betting is you can walk into a shop, write the 4 names down, take the current prices, and you're on at the fourfold. So we're in for plenty. I mean, all 4 winning will clearly be bad news. We've got liabilities on the fourfold to a point, but I think it's also the fact that they're going to be the bankers on each of the days, and they'll be the centrepiece of all the multiples. So if they all win, and you're then going to have to be hoping for some pretty good results around them. But and it's not just them. I mean, Sprinter Sark's taken on the role of a banker in the Arkle. He's 10 to 11. And we've also got Grand Cru. If he stays in the RSA Chase, he'll be short. And Quivega on the first day as well. She's odds on. So there's some real.
But you're not worried, are you, Simon? I mean, isn't this one of those things where punters look and they see the short prices and they know the horses and they get overexcited? You'll get out of this, won't you, as bookmakers?
Well, listen. I mean, we'll always come out of it somehow. Often not necessarily unscathed. But Cheltenham's tough. I mean, make no mistake. The one thing, this is where punters have an absolute field day, because bookmakers will go out of their way. They'll be offering extra places. They'll be all trying to compete on price. They'll be doing extra concessions, money back offers, you name it. And it's proved over the years, pretty. In an average year, bookmakers do not. This is not a great profit maker. It's a good showcase, a good way to recruit customers, but you really do need some pretty sensational results to get a cork of a Cheltenham from a bookmaker point of view. There's all violins. Clearly, there is some light, but if you look at those big 4 races, it's not an awful lot behind Hurricane Fly or Sizing Europe or Big Bucks, and now possibly even Long Run running for us. So
Al, that's the point you were making about the long run race.
Yeah, I think so, and I think. As Mike says, I think a lot more people will be looking at it saying, well, I don't see many dangers to this, and I'm getting this big inflated accumulator. And I think that as bookmakers, if we are going into Friday with just long run and Kauto Star's not lining up against him, then I think a few white flags will be out.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to see, especially if the first one's going. Neil, I know that you're probably not falling over yourself to back these short price horses, so where does your attention go? And does this have any benefit for you, this kind of hype?
100%, Nick. It certainly does, yes. There's a certain thing in betting that you may have heard of. It's called the each way bet.
I have heard of it.
Yeah,
mainly through you.
At Cheltenham, the bookmakers very kindly, I think, and hats off. It's lovely to have Simon here. I'll be tramping around a bunch of Coral shops in the West End later today. They offer a quarter of the odds first 3, and I'm very excited by that news, and that means I'll be able to back such horses as maybe Big Zeb each way behind Sizing Europe at 9 to 2. I quite like that one. Possibly Alpha Off in the Arkle each way. Lots of opportunities to have bets that really the bookmakers are not that keen on you having, but it's Cheltenham and they feel like they should fill the satchel.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 in there that are the bankers. I can't see Sizing Europe being beat, although you're keen on Big Zeb. I think he's been exceptional. Just love the way he bounced off the ground last year. Big Bucks is obviously a banker, but I'm against Hurricane Fly. I backed Binocular Anti-Post each way. I think he's a different horse. I think we saw that at Wincanton. I think he's back to the Binocular that won the Champion Hurdle a few years ago, just purely from the way he's hurdling. He's had that breathing operation. He looks as though he's travelling more comfortably. And I think we're going to come on and discuss it in just a moment, but I'd go against Long Run at the current prices, especially with Grand Cru possibly lining up, and also the way Burton Port was staying on at Newbury as well. I thought that was
So you think there are a few horses that...
I think Sizing Europe and Big Bucks are the two bankers, but I think Hurricane Fly and Long Run are the two vulnerable horses of those two.
I think just to make one other quick point about specifically about these four. Right now, when we're talking about the anti-post market for each of these individual races, we're spending a lot of time, and pundits are spending a lot of time talking about the actual chances of these horses winning their respective races.
Yeah.
When we get round to 10 days' time, we'll be talking about such things as, well, the first two have won, we better go really short the next one. Bookmakers on the course will be, oh God, the first two have won, we better go evens the third one and try and get it all back in one go. There's going to be a lot of those kind of factors coming into the price. It'll be more about what's happened in the previous races, which clearly has no bearing on the later races.
But it's Cheltenham, it does happen,
It
doesn't it?
definitely happens.
Russ said the most important race of the festival is the Champion Hurdle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every bookmaker focused on the fact.
Because that sets the tone, doesn't it?
It absolutely sets the tone. Hurricane Fly gets beat, you'll see big prices, you'll see more generous offers. We're refunding every single horse on our mobile product beaten less than a length. There were 6 last year, 10 the year before. I mean, that's a huge offer. As Simon says, you know, there'll be people almost begging for your business. But if Hurricane Fly gets beat, expect some big prices in the week.
Simon, Cheltenham's just completely unique in terms of how much the dynamic within Cheltenham occurs, like Neil's saying, in terms of whether the punters are on top or the bookies are on top, or what's happened, you know, early in the week affecting other prices.
Yeah, listen, it's true. The one thing I'd say, it's amazing how, you know, it really is a marathon. 4 days. You know, I remember Cheltenham's where you have a really good first day, and you know, as a bookmaker, and you think, yeah, this is great, money in the satchel, and then, you know, you get absolutely hit like a sledgehammer on the Wednesday and Thursday, and then you get out of trouble on the Friday, and it really can be like that. I mean, I think what Alan's saying is perfectly right. Everyone wants to get off to a good start. It's like a sporting event, isn't it? You feel like you can get a goal ahead or 2 goals ahead. At least you feel like you're not going to, you know, lose 3-0. But I mean, when Junior won the Kim Muir last year, you know, a race which probably would be like, you know, in the bottom 4 or 5 betting races.
Oh, don't bring that up, Simon. I'm still having the therapy about that. Can I ask you a quick
Cheltenham box with
Can I ask you a quick question, Simon? Because you know, the last couple of years at Cheltenham, we've had these amazing price wars. Not so much with Corals, more between Ladbrokes and Hills, where they've gone kind of crazy. You know, like for example, a horse this year, you could kind of see Hurricane Fly being 4 to 6 the day before, and on the day somebody just going, we're going to go 5 to 4 because we want to open up lots of new accounts. If you had to pick one of the short price favourites at Corals, which one would you take on if you wanted to just do something crazy and offer a mad price just to try and get lots of new accounts signed up?
Oh, it's a very difficult one to call. It really is. I mean, every time I look at them, I just don't know how they're going to get beat. I mean, there's only, I think, listen, if Caterstart does line up, Long Run. Actually, no, Joe, even if Caterstart doesn't line up, I think Long Run is vulnerable. I think there's plenty of interesting horses in that race, and Long Run doesn't look a great jumper, a fluent jumper, and he has got, you know, fundamentally, an amateur on board who's had 1 win in the last 12 months. So I think there are reasons why you can see him getting beat. The other 3 just look so solid. To the one each way bet, I think you should also go around and get in your satchel, by the way, is Oscar Whiskey, because I was on a panel last night with Nick Fitzgerald, who's obviously very close to the Henderson operation, and he really believes Oscar Whiskey is going to go very close against Big Bucks. He's going to be ridden just to try and pounce him in the final strides, and if he doesn't win, I think it's hard to see him being out of the 3. So
Mike, I can see that you're... I can see Mike's not happy with that.
I'm not an Oscar Whiskey. I think he's looked a little bit laboured at times at Cheltenham when, you know, he has won, but he's not beaten a great deal. I think there's value right down the other end of the market, going each way.
Yeah, that would be me. I was at one of those preview things last night, and the assistant trainer was there, and he didn't sound too confident at all about
we're no
longer
allowed to listen to trainers of any kind because Al's told us not to.
I actually quite fancy one.
Take it or leave it.
If he turns up each way in the World Hurdle, Carlito Briganti stepping up, the Coral Cup winner last year.
I would be more of a Vola Lavadet or a Murad man in that race
price,
each way. I understand, but you know,
Vola Lavadet, Murad, and Zaidpour, they just beat each other. Zaidpour wants the soft ground. I thought at double the price, 25 to 1. Carlito Briganti looked pretty interesting.
If you watched last year's races
Neil,
again.
just one second.
Murad was a little bit unlucky, actually, I think. You know,
Yeah,
wasn't beaten that far.
Just 1 second. I just do need to talk to Mike about being able to bet on horses on Bodugi as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Cheltenham's going to be big for us, and also with the short price favourites as well. It's pretty interesting with the strategy employed for Bodugi also. It's exactly the same sort of thing you play for a set stake against a set number of people. There will be big games as well. There'll be free offers available as well. With Bodugi, you make one selection in each of the first of the 6 races, and you get points depending on where your horse finishes. If you get a winner, you get 10 times the SP in points. Second, 2 times the SP. Third, 1 times the SP. Race 4, the feature race at Cheltenham every day, is worth double points. So well worth looking for some outsiders for some tasty each way value.
A way of playing and betting on Cheltenham, if you don't want to bet big on every race, you can do that.
Well, exactly, and you've got guaranteed involvement for all 6 races as well. You pay
What
your
does
money.
it mean? Why would you not want to bet big on every race?
Because you want a guaranteed tangible involvement.
Because you can do all of your money on Wednesday. That's why.
No worries.
Take us through this week's charity bets, some of which are Cheltenham bets, I think.
I hope so, yeah.
What have you gone for this week?
Well, one mad offer that one of the firms is doing is, I hate to mention them because they're not sponsoring the show in any way, but down, where are we? Second bet down there, I've gone for Al for off, each way at 9-2 in the Arkle. With Paddy Power, if you lose this bet, they give you your money back.
That seems fair.
Sorry.
If
Sprinter Sacra wins the race.
Okay, fine. If the favourite.
Yeah, so I just think, well, the kids have to have a bit of their money on that because that looks like a good bet to me.
Norwich to beat Stoke.
I love Norwich. I love Norwich against Stoke.
Wolves to beat Fulham.
Wolves is a bit of a speculative one. The bottom one, I'm having a little each way double. I love this quarter of the odds all races. I think I'd take the point. I backed Sizing Europe last year at 12-1. I'm not going to back it this year at evens. I just think Big Zeb, of the two, Big Zeb and what's it called, the Nicky Henderson horse, Finian's Rainbow. I think Big Zeb, the vibes are a lot more confident.
And roughly, what will that return if
well, it's 2 5-1 chances.
2 5-1 chances. Okay, great. Fantastic. We will follow those, and of course they'll be live at Cheltenham very soon. Al, you've got a football tip for us usually. I'm hoping you've got one today.
Yeah, one bet that I would have this weekend in our sponsored division, the Blue Square Bet Premier, Forest Green against a woefully out of form Cambridge. We're 6-5. I wouldn't say shop around, but there's bigger available. Okay,
great tip. And Simon, do you have a tip for us this weekend, or a value bet this weekend you like?
Oh, a tricky one. Listen, I think Arsenal are going to keep up. My glass is far fuller than Alan's glass.
I did say that before, Simon.
To do it again at Anfield in memory of the great night.
What about there's a Cheltenham nap, Simon?
Sorry?
Cheltenham nap.
A Cheltenham nap.
Sorry, guys.
He doesn't have one. Doesn't have one right now.
A Cheltenham tip.
Yeah, Cheltenham nap.
Champion court in the Jewson. Fancy him a lot.
Oh, lovely. I like that horse, actually. That's good.
That's a good one we haven't covered so far. We will, of course, cover all of the Cheltenham races as we build up to that here on the Punter on the biggest betting weeks of the year. That's all the show we've got for you this week. My thanks to Flash, to Simon Clare from Corals, to Alan Alger from Blue Square, to Neil Channing, our resident punter, and to Bodugi Mike from Bodugi.com, our betting partners this weekend. With you playing on Bodugi, or whatever bets you're having, I hope that they're all winners. We'll see you next time for more The Punter.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.